Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. Today I'm talking about Kingdom Hearts. Specifically, this is the Kingdom Hearts Final Mix version. I played it on the PlayStation 4 Kingdom Hearts The Story So Far collection. I feel like I play this game pretty annually, so I'm actually surprised that I've never recorded a casual review for it before. I mean, I've been playing this game since its release back on the PlayStation 2, so I'm no stranger to the series. As far as the plot goes for Kingdom Hearts, it has a simple surfacey level kind of story, but then if you are familiar with the series, then you know that the whole plot line and the story goes much deeper than that surface level, to the point where it is pretty complex, and in order to completely understand it, you will need to play like all of the different Kingdom Hearts games, and even if you do, you probably won't completely 100% understand this story as a whole. So to learn more about that, I'm sure there are tons of other YouTube videos out there that try to explain the story of all the Kingdom Hearts games. In this one, our main protagonist is a character named Sora, who is chosen by a weapon called a Keyblade, one of the few weapons that can actually hurt an evil force called the Heartless. Sora's world is destroyed, and he finds himself paired up with Donald and Goofy, and they are traveling across all of the different Disney planets in order to find King Mickey and Sora's friends. So yeah, the really cool thing about this game, it is a mix, it is a crossover of Final Fantasy and Disney. This isn't a combination that you would initially think about, but it works surprisingly well because you get the perfect blend of more serious, edgy, cool Final Fantasy stuff, and then also the more upbeat and nostalgic waves of all of these different Disney characters and environments. On the Final Fantasy route, you're going to run into Cloud and Squall and Yuffie and Sid, of course, because it's a Final Fantasy game. But on the Disney end of things, obviously Sora is paired up with Donald and Goofy, but you're going to be traveling to all of these different worlds that embody like a Disney movie. So you'll go to Alice in Wonderland, you'll go to Hercules, which is more like a Coliseum arena type of world. You'll go to Tarzan. And so it's always like a treat to find out where you're going next. And on each of these planets, it is its own like small little individual story that loosely follows the story of the movie, but with Kingdom Hearts tied into it. So for instance, if you go to Aladdin's world, he still gets the lamp, he still summons Genie, we're still trying to rescue Jasmine from Jafar. But tied into that, Jafar is also looking for the keyhole, because each of these Disney worlds has a keyhole that is basically like a portal to the heart of the world, or something like that. I'm not actually sure what the keyholes are now that I think about it. So yeah, there's a huge cast of interesting characters that you already know and love, especially if you watched a lot of Disney movies and played a lot of Final Fantasy games. I love the main cast of characters though. I love the party dynamic of Sora, Donald, and Goofy. Now you can only control Sora. Donald and Goofy kind of do their own thing, but you can give them some light commands, like when to use their healing items or how frequently they should use their MP. As far as the combat itself goes, it is a action RPG. To start out with, you can move around this three-dimensional space, and Sora has access to magic spells, but he also has his main damage-dealing weapon, the Keyblade. And to start out with, you just do a simple like 3-hit combo on the Heartless, but you can, as you level up, you get access to like new abilities, and you can really customize Sora to do like different combo strings, or maybe you want to focus more on magic, which will make your magic abilities do more. You'll also get access to summons, which allow you to summon random Disney characters to come and help you fight. And so at the beginning of the game, you're kind of given a choice what stat you really want to focus on and what stat you want to have less access to. And usually I pick the sword because I always go up and just whack people with the Keyblade, right? So it makes sense to do the most damage through my attack power, through my close physical combat power. And I usually give up the magic magic. But this time around, I wanted to mix it up, and so I decided I was going to be a mage this playthrough. And so I picked up the staff, which makes it so my magic stat is stronger, and then I gave up my physical attack because I figured I wouldn't be attacking that much physically. That actually wasn't really the case here, because in order to regain your mana points to cast spells, you do have to go up and hit enemies or resort to using items, and I did a lot of those. My experience as a magic caster focused type of character was an interesting one because it was difficult at the beginning of the game because you really don't have access to too much MP here, so you really can't cast like too many spells before you have to go up and hit them physically anyway, and you really don't get access to powerful spells until a couple hours into the game. And so the beginning of the game was a little rough for me, but once I got in the groove of it, I unlocked some new spells. I loved being a magic caster in this game because like 1 or 2 thunders, you wipe out the entire spawn of Heartless in just a couple of seconds, which was really nice if you had the mana. Yeah, it was a little tedious worrying and managing about your MP, but money isn't that difficult to come across in this game, and so I was able to stock up on ethers, which restored the MP. So I was really feeling good about my magic casting route in this game until I got near the end of the game, because the only time that magic casting isn't that reliable late game, I would say, is with the bosses, because most bosses either resist a lot of magic or straight up are immune to a lot of the magic, and so you're kind of just wasting your time. Like, it does more damage if you just go up and whack them with their Keyblade rather than trying to cast a spell at them over and over again, except for a few exceptions. But yeah, by the end, I did start more leaning towards more of a physical attacker despite how I had played up to this point. As far as the combat goes, it is a little difficult to hit enemies close up with your Keyblade because a lot of these Heartless are fairly mobile. They're zipping around all over the place. A lot of them like to go into this little invulnerable stasis mode where they kind of like sink into the ground so you can't hit them, or turn into a little shadow. And then you have to wait for them to appear, which is pretty tedious because it kind of like breaks up the flow of the combat a lot. Also, they do a lot of things where they like are blocking and there's no way you can penetrate their defenses. Sometimes it's just hard to get up and like whack them with your combo because like Donald and Goofy are also hitting them, and so they're moving the enemies around. And so that's another aspect where magic was very beneficial because I didn't have to worry about getting up close and personal in order to land my combo. I could just launch spells from afar. The UI in this game is not good at all. It's really difficult to like navigate all your different spells and your items. Now you do have a shortcut, so you can kind of like hotkey your spells or items to this shortcut, but you only get 3 of those. So it's already pretty difficult trying to pick out your 3 most used spells that you'll need. Cure is probably going to be one, and then maybe Arrow or some kind of offensive spell for your other ones, because you're like trying to navigate this menu using the D-pad in order to access your different spells and summons and items, using the D-pad as you're moving around with the analog stick to dodge enemy attacks. And so it can be cumbersome, but eventually I did get in the hang of it. I was kind of able to still move around Sora with the tip of my thumb and then like manipulate the D-pad with like that second joint on my thumb at the same time. It's just silly that you have to like do that at all though. Like there's gotta be a better way. I used summons a lot more than I normally do on a Kingdom Hearts playthrough, mostly because I kind of built my character to increase my spell power and my summon power, and so the summons were actually useful. My complaint about the summons is you have to sit through this summoning little cinematic every time you want to use a summon. I feel like I would use summons a lot more if I could just skip that little introduction of Tinkerbell or Mushu or whoever. Actually, I ended up using Bambi a lot as a summon because Bambi gives you a ton of mana, so you can just consistently cast those spells without having to worry about mana. You are only able to use a summon if you have Donald and Goofy in your party and they aren't incapacitated at the time, so it is kind of situational. And that's kind of what I was saying about like the end game, because sometimes when you're facing these last end game level bosses, you don't have Donald or Goofy with you, you're kind of expected to do that on your own, and so it is difficult to rely on summons that way. I think I've learned a lot about the actual combat in Kingdom Hearts this playthrough, because normally you kind of go up to an enemy and you whack them a ton of times until they die, but there's actually a lot more strategy in this game than first meets the eye, because at the beginning of the game, yeah, it's pretty simple, but late game gets rather complex, and you actually need to worry about dodging enemy choreographed attacks, almost like a FromSoft game. Some of these last level bosses like Hades or the Ice Titan or Sephiroth, like some of these last level bosses, or there's a couple secret bosses, like you really need to be watching the enemy boss for when they're going to do an attack, and they usually have a tell what kind of attack they're going to do, but you need to know like instinctively how to react to some of these enemy attacks late game. So for anybody who says that Kingdom Hearts combat is overtly simple or easy, I would kind of push back on that a little bit and refer them to some of these last end game fights, because they are rather strategic. And not to mention, there's just like a ton of customization for Sora and Donald and Goofy, because you need to manage their equipment. Yes, their equipment is pretty basic. You're just choosing out like what kind of keychain Sora has on his Keyblade, and then you have your accessories. Same with Donald and Goofy, but you also have something called ability points, and like I mentioned earlier, these basically like affect how you fight. They can affect your combos. They can affect what kind of resources you get when you defeat enemies. Two of the must-have abilities in my head are guard and roll, because that really helps you avoid enemy attacks or parry enemy attacks, because sometimes you just cannot dodge these abilities, and you'll need to be able to block and counter strike. You'll be doing this combat a lot, by the way, because every time you are navigating into a new room, tons of Heartless are just going to spawn over and over again. And once you do clear the room, they don't spawn again until you like leave the room and come back. But you're going to be fighting random mobs of Heartless all the time. This wasn't so much of a problem as a magic caster, because you can wipe them out pretty quickly if you have the mana. But if you are going more like a physical base attacker, you're going to be doing a lot of this random combat in addition to the bosses. Each of the Disney worlds isn't that long. Like, if you know what you're doing, if you know where to go, you can complete Alice in Wonderland in maybe 20 minutes. And it felt so much longer as a kid. Like, each of these worlds took days for me to complete, but because I know what to do, where to go, how to fight, I can complete these worlds a lot quicker than that. And some of these worlds are longer, that take longer than other worlds, but still, even the longest world, I would argue, maybe is Hollow Bastion, takes maybe like 2 hours to complete if you know what you're doing. Now, I emphasize if you know what you're doing, because the solutions on how to progress in this game are fairly obtuse, and there might be like little hints in order to tell you what to do and where to go, but it is fairly complex. And so, yeah, as a kid who didn't have access to the internet, I would just run around and interact with any possible random item that I can in order to progress. But you may want to consider following a walkthrough when you're playing through this game, especially if you want to gather all of the additional collectibles to 100% complete this game. You will find hidden torn pages across all of the different worlds, and you use these torn pages in order to access Winnie the Pooh's book. And with Winnie the Pooh, you'd basically do like a bunch of little mini games with them and collect some potentially some pretty strong items, but it's mostly like about mini games, and it's its own little side content. And every time you find a new torn page across the land, then you can do like you can access a new area in 100 Acre Woods and do a little mini game there. You get a little cute little cinematic with Winnie the Pooh's friends and stuff. You can also collect the 101 Dalmatians, well, specifically 99 Dalmatians, because you're rescuing them for Pongo and Perdita. And so my wife always insists whenever she's watching that I go and collect all the 99 Dalmatians. And some of them are fairly difficult to find. I don't know how anybody would organically be able to find all 99 Dalmatians without following a walkthrough, because it can be fairly complex. So normally what I do is I get to like one of the last end game levels, I get access to all of my different traversal abilities, and then I backtrack and find all of the Dalmatians. Now, you don't have to find like 99 individual Dalmatians. They come in batches of 3, and so really you need to find like 33 chests with Dalmatians in them. But they give you awards progressively as you rescue more and more Dalmatians, and then you can go and visit them at their home. I mentioned different traversal abilities. As you are playing through the game, you will get access to navigate through these spaces easier. Like you'll get access to a high jump or access to swim faster. You'll also get access to interact with these symbols called Trinities, and they basically either allow you to access an entirely new area, or they make like a treasure chest spawn, or give you just like a ton of money. If you want to 100% complete this game, you will need to backtrack to a lot of these other worlds as you unlock new traversal abilities and Trinities. And just in general, when you are navigating through each individual world, there is a lot of backtracking. There is a lot of, okay, go to this room, fight these Heartless, now talk to this guy, now go back to where you were before and fight these Heartless and talk to this guy, now go back to your main area and talk to this character. And so it is kind of tedious and frustrating at times, especially if you don't know where to go. You feel like you're just going into the same rooms over and over again. But even if you do know where to go, you will be doing a lot of backtracking for the story. The Hercules Coliseum is also a world that you'll be frequently visiting if you're trying to do everything in this game. Basically, it's like 10 different curated fights that you try to take down in order to get a trophy for that cup, and usually you get a little prize. Near the end of the game, that's when you're going to be fighting some of the super strong secret bosses like Hades and the Rock Titan and the Ice Titan, Cerberus, those kind of bosses. But the rewards are pretty great, and it is a good way to get extra experience points if you are feeling underleveled. There's a decent amount of platforming in this game as well, which can be pretty tricky. The platforms themselves and the jumping never really feels good. I would even argue that Mario 64's platforming is better than this game's, but it does help with the platforming once you get access to new traversal abilities that will kind of like help you aim where you're going to land. But it can be frustrating, like just trying to platform from one tiny area to another and then you end up falling. And there's no like death from falling, it just takes you like back to other areas that you might not want to be at the moment. In order to travel between these different worlds, you're going to be flying in this blocky ship called a gummy ship, and it is fairly brain dead. It's like an on-rail shooter as you're traveling to these different worlds. It isn't that exciting. A lot of people say that you just need to hold the X button to fire your shot, and then you don't even need to worry about moving around or navigating or anything like that. I'm gonna push back on that a little bit as well, because some of the last levels that you're traveling to in your gummy ship do get fairly complex, and you will need to be moving around at least to avoid obstacles and enemy shots. The cool thing about the gummy ships is as you are playing through the game, you will unlock new gummy ship parts, and then you can upgrade your gummy ship. And trying to navigate the UI with this gummy ship interface to build your gummy ship is so counterintuitive. It is fairly frustrating. So I didn't really tinker that much with the gummy ship, but I did do more than I usually do with my old playthroughs, where basically anytime I would unlock a new jet or a new weapon, I would attach it to my gummy ship. And so it is kind of cool visually to see your gummy ship just be this simple little pea shooter to something that shoots like laser beams and like tons of different bullets all over the place. I think that the gummy ships are done a lot better in its sequels compared to this one. I love the music in this game, not even just like the Disney music, which I love because it's so reminiscent of the movies soundtracks, but I like just the Kingdom Hearts music, so like the Kingdom Hearts focused things. I also just love the little cartoony sound effects. Whenever like an item falls from the sky, it'll do this little boop boop noise. Like it's very cartoony as far as like the Foley sound effects. However, if you are low on health, it does this little alarm beeping noise, which is incredibly annoying. Luckily, you get access to tons of different healing items and your cure spell, and so you'll rarely have to hear that alarm beeping noise, but it is so annoying, and as far as I know, there's no way to turn that off. I actually did a lot more with this playthrough than I normally do when I play through this game. Normally, I play more of like a speed run kind of playthrough. Takes me like a little more than 10 hours, but I actually spent 20 hours playing through this game just because I really wanted to explore some of the stuff that I normally ignore. Like, I actually defeated Hades, which is an optional difficult boss to take down. I got all the 99 Dalmatians, I got all the Torm pages, I synthesized a lot of items. There's like a simple crafting that you can do to synthesize items, and that's actually how you get like the best Keyblade in the game. So I didn't do that. I got all of the Trinities. I think maybe another 10 hours I would be able to 100% complete this game if I just banged my head against the wall trying to defeat some of these super difficult secret bosses. So it's not like a super long RPG, especially if you're not trying to 100% complete it, but that's okay because sometimes I want a shorter experience. And if you want a longer Kingdom Hearts experience, boy, do I have good news for you, because there's like 10 plus other games for you to enjoy at this point. And by the end of the game, I was level 62, I think, which is a lot higher than I normally am at the end of the game. I wish I had chosen a different route at the beginning of the game. You basically are asked like a series of questions, and this kind of affects how quickly you level up. And based on my questions, I wanted to level up super quickly up to level 40, and then after that, I would have to get a lot more experience in order to level up. You have like a balance option, which is kind of a mixture between the two, even experience before and after level 40. And then you have like a different one where it takes a lot of experience to level up to level 40, but then it's a lot easier to level up past that. And so I wish I picked more of a balanced experience because I didn't expect to spend that much time playing through this game. But after I got to level 40, then I really needed to start grinding for XP if I did want to level up. So all in all, I know that this game is not perfect. It certainly has a lot of flaws, and I feel like a lot of the aspects about Kingdom Hearts are improved in its successors. However, I think I'm going to give this game a 5 out of 5, simply just because I love the world. I love the story, even as complex as it is. I love the characters. I love the sound effects. I love the gameplay, even though the gameplay itself can be a little frustrating combat-wise. I just think that it's as complex and deep as you want it to be, both as far as like the story goes and as far as the combat goes. And so it's like easy to get into, but it's difficult to master. And I really like that about the game. So now I need to debate whether I play through Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories or I jump straight into Kingdom Hearts 2. I was thinking I would play them in order of release rather than the chronological order because there's a lot of prequels to this series. As far as Chain of Memory goes, this was originally released for the Game Boy Advance, and it's kind of it takes place right after Kingdom Hearts 1, and it's in between Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. I have never been able to beat this game because of its gameplay. So I'm debating whether I'd play that one or skip straight to Kingdom Hearts 2. I guess you will have to tune in to find out later. Well, guys, that's it for me. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about Kingdom Hearts, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later. Bye!
You gotta look funny, like us. Yup. Whoa.
Yes, but ones on happy faces.
Happy?
That's one funny face.